Good morning, kids, and today we're checking out a brand new video from Popcross Studios of turning more singing monsters into fantasy beasts. Let's go.
I'll be honest, I woke up Monday morning and had no idea what video I was working on today, so I decided to just go with something that I'd actually planned on doing last month and just didn't get around to. My Singing Monsters More Monstrous Part 6. One of my longest running series, and I'd say one of my best series. That was even good enough to get me recognition from the actual My Singing Monsters official YouTube channel. For this episode, I'm
That's
specifically
killer.
going to be working with monsters from the Ethereal Workshop update, because there were a bunch of really cool ones in there, so I thought, what the heck, let's go with a theme. Let's get into
let's
it,
do
shall
this.
we? Let's go.
Hit like if you feel like it. Subscribe if you want. By the way, enjoy the show. I keep mixing that up. I gotta remember to flip that.
Kayla told me the other day a quote that she heard that spoke to me. It said, "Don't die with your music still in you."
I
I
wonder what
can't
that
say
means.
for certain that I know what exactly my own
Oh my god, this thing is called Gadzooks. No, that is a laugh.
music is, but I do feel it involves helping others to express their own. Of course, this train of thought reminded me of some allies of mine that I had not checked in on in quite a while, ones who I've worked alongside to, quite literally, allow some creatures of my world to let out their own music. These are a group of beast chroniclers known as the Monster Handlers, and I was eager to see how they were doing, aiding the creatures known as the Monsters of Song
I
to
remember
once
them.
again sing and play their music that they used to be famous for. They too were eager to see me, as Sir Tyson and Champion Jen said they'd found and aided many creatures as of late in their search for one specific monster that they sought in the Ethereal Mountains. It seems many monsters of song
nice
from the
range.
hymns of the Colossal's religious texts have found refuge in these mountains, even ones thought to be long extinct. The ones that the handlers told me about during their latest encounters were all of a kind, said to be forged by the Colossals themselves by combining smaller creatures that they
Ooh.
referred to as the Meebsynths. It is said that these blob-like
Meebsynths?
creatures could attune to different environments and absorb the energy from them to then be fused with others of different attunements to create creatures that could then thrive in any of these terrains. The first of these that they told me
I like.
about was the Gadzian Wogzook. It is a particularly fascinating creature with some anatomy resembling that of a frog, though it stands on two legs, and as opposed to having arms or a front set of legs, it has two necks that spawn from the top of its main head, and
And a
lead to
tail.
two more smaller heads with extra mouths on them. The Gadzian was a beast that the handlers believed to be long extinct, and happened upon it by accident. It was said to always be a very unstable creature, and was easily susceptible to injury and illness. Because of this, when humans started hunting the monsters of song, the Gadzian
I bet this little guy always fell on his face no matter how hard he just simply walked.
Wogzooks were fairly easy to slay, even with their three sets of mouths available to bite and tear at their foes. At least because of this, when the handlers came across the beast, it didn't even attempt to attack them and simply ran. Luckily, the
Aw.
skilled musicians that they are,
Cute
the handlers
little
were able to
coward.
follow it on horseback while playing music to soothe it, and eventually it slowed to a stop and joined in with their melody, for
Hey,
the first time in
there
a
we
long
go.
while sharing its percussive song with the world once more. Of course, they'd been very pleased to help another monster find its peace.
So sorry for disappointing you guys like that. I had something I had to take care of immediately. I am so sorry to both you and the person I was called away to help. So let's just get on back with this.
But they'd not yet found the specific beast that they sought. Now, I didn't go into this Gadzooks drawing thinking it was like attempting to make it one of my best, but I was still going into it wanting to do a really good job, and I
Not the
really like
best,
the design of the
still good.
Gadzooks, but I honestly think this might be my new favorite My Singing Monster Fantasy Beast drawing. It's definitely up there with the Brump, which was in my top 23 drawings of 2023 last year and was very high on the list, like number 4 or something like that. And I just
wow.
love how this one looks, even though there are a few things that when I focus on my nitpicks, I'm like, well, that could definitely have been better. For one thing, I
is kinda
love how the
goofy.
pose looks, but the logic behind the pose in the context of the environment it's in doesn't completely make sense. Like, if it's running, was its previous step in the river behind it? And if so, why isn't water splashing up behind it? I guess technically you could say that it leaped over the the ridge and the bushes in behind it and is now landing on the
Yeah.
other side of the river, which feels like a bit
Yeah,
of a
okay.
stretch, but I guess technically could work. And then the other thing is that the water feels like it's a little bit cheap and a little bit too rushed. Could have spent a bit more time on that and this creature's reflection in it, but that is also a background element, and just looking at the piece as a whole, I really like how this one turned out. As
Yeah, it's
much as
actually
I've
pretty
been
good.
enjoying doing my Godzilla monster drawings lately with the 2 Pokemon episodes and the FNAF episode,
I
I
remember
do
that.
think I still prefer drawing nature-style environments, because it feels like there's a bit more freedom with how to use the environment to frame things, but that could
True.
also be partially because I'm just much more used to doing nature environments and not so much the destroyed buildings, which I'm getting better at as I go.
You have
Anyway, I
pretty much
hope you
always
all
done
like this one as
nature.
much as I do. Let's take a look at how it finished up.
It's a very nice beast. You could almost call it a beast of song.
After their encounter with the Gadzian
Ew,
Bogzook,
what
the
the-
handlers then found themselves led by this creature to another monster of song, though still not the one they'd come to the territory around the Ethereal Mountains to seek.
What is
It appeared
this
that the
thing?
Gadzian had made an ally in another creature of similar origin, and the handlers could tell they were approaching it by the strong scent it gave off.
A
This
scent?
was the Rekeel York.
It's stinky.
And, while it was pleased briefly to see its ally approaching, it was instantly thrown into a fury by seeing the handlers in tow. It likely thought they were threatening the Gadzian, so it lunged towards them, opening the large mouth that spawns from the top of its head to reveal another smaller mouth inside of that easily could
Actually, you know what? This thing kind of reminds me of those weird alien penguins from Subnautica Below Zero.
have taken off one of the handler's heads. Thankfully, the creature's rage was promptly slowed by the Gadzian as it began to play its music once more. The Rekeel's attack promptly ceased, and it was captivated by the tune. The handlers
Aw.
joined in the song as well, and soon enough the Rekeel did as well, with its larger mouth singing in a deeper tone, then intermittently switching to a song from its smaller mouth, which sang in a higher pitch.
Now
As
that
they
is
went
clever.
on, the strong and rather foul scent given off by the Rekeel even dissipated, then shifted to one of a much sweeter and more pleasant aroma. It had likely used the off-putting odor to repel potential predators, but suddenly feeling safe around the likes of humans, it allowed itself to shift back to its more natural and pleasant state. After those encounters, they deemed that even if they'd never found the creature they'd come to the Ethereal Mountains to search for, this set of interactions would have already made the journey well worthwhile. But that did not mean they intended to give up their search. Now, for anyone not familiar with
So
the
it's
Ethereal
not done.
Workshop creatures, this one is called the Eureek, and I read in the wiki that it's both named after the phrase Eureka, but also
Ah.
after the term you reek, like you smell really
Hold on, folks. I'll be right back. And we're back.
bad.
There we
Though
go.
I didn't actually see in its lore anything about this thing giving off a pungent odor, I thought that would be a fun little thing to work into my version of the lore.
Yeah,
and also
because of its
doing this
name.
drawing made me really want to do a drawing of Pinsir from Pokemon as either a Godzilla monster or a dragon or
Ooh.
maybe even an SCP. Because I just really like that look. Of obviously this is a bit different because Pinsir's thing is like a set of giant
Well, yeah,
mandibles, and this
pinsels.
one is a giant mouth. But I really like that head shape. It also got me thinking
Pretty
that
good.
it could have been fun to do a My Singing Monsters as either xenomorphs or just general alien monsters, because they probably have a lot of them could transition really easily into aliens, sometimes
That
even
sounds fun.
more easily than into fantasy beasts. Like this one having the smaller mouth inside the bigger mouth already gives off pretty xenomorph-like vibes. So that's something
Completely.
I'll have to consider now that I have a whole series of turning things into xenomorphs, which I want to branch out and turn into more like general alien monsters, I think, so that people don't think they have to know anything about xenomorphs to enjoy it. This is another drawing
would
that
be
I
fun.
really love how it turned
Oh,
out. This
at
was
least
actually
cool.
the first one I did, and I feel like it has very similar vibes to my Theramind drawing, which is another of my favorite My Singing Monster drawings I've done.
I
don't know
remember
if I
that
like
one.
this one better or that one. Maybe that
Like a
one,
mega
just because it
brain.
has that interesting little unique element of having like a floating mouth in its hand. But it's a tough call because I really like both, and I'm super happy with how this one turned out. Though I do think I probably could have added a little bit more textures, like more dots and
Hmm.
bumps along its body. Like there's a bit more detail concentrated on its head, which obviously I want to draw people's attention
Which
to its
makes
head
a lot of
anyway.
sense.
But I could have put a little bit more texture in and around the rest of it. Also, I'm really glad that I made the tail longer. I think that's a cool element, even though it's, largely hidden behind its legs.
Snub tail.
I like the longer
But, yeah,
tail look
long
on this
tail.
guy. Let's see how you all like it.
Yeah, I like it. So far of the episode, I'm gonna give this one first place. Now that its ranking will depend on the other two.
So apparently in marketing,
Oop, hold on, we'll be right back. And we're back.
can go by just like that.
The handlers still had yet
Ooh,
another
damn.
unexpected encounter to come across before finding the true beast they were after. This one with a creature that somewhat resembles a ferret mixed with a giraffe, I suppose,
ferret
though
dog.
with many, many more teeth. The blaring blue ferretus was a breed of monster of song that the handlers knew was likely still alive,
Yeah, it's called the Bleret.
as they'd heard some tales of others' encounters with it, but they'd never come across one themselves until this journey. Its long neck reaches 18 feet in height, and along it are an extra 2 sets of mouths
Damn.
that, surprisingly, it does not have at birth, but develops as it ages. This creature took even less effort from the handlers to revert to its musical ways, as it wandered up to them while they were still playing with the Gadzian and Rikiel. It was tentative as it saw the handlers, but did not flee or attack. The
Instead,
handlers
it
made eye
begun
contact
singing.
with it and simply continued to play, which eventually gave it the sense of safety it needed to try joining in.
Oh,
It
that's
seemed to
actually
take
really
some
nice.
time to get all 3 of its mouths to cooperate in the song, as it likely had not made music in years, possibly even its entire life. But soon, it was harmonizing with both itself and the other creatures in the group to create a wonderful, elevated melody. As the song
I
came
bet it
to an
sounded
end, they even
beautiful.
found this creature became comfortable enough around the handlers to nuzzle its head against them, and purred loudly when they began to scratch under its various chins. The interaction with the ferretus and the other creatures kept
Okay, now hold on. Where on this thing does it have a chin other than the head? Where is the chin heel and where's the chin heel? You tell me.
them busy into the night, which was the time they knew they'd be most likely to finally find the homunculus fright bear.
Homunculus fright bear? Ooh,
Now, this is the drawing of the
love
episode
it.
that I look at and go, yeah, that's pretty cool. With a little bit of a shrug. Like, I still really like how it turned out. It just doesn't quite feel as special as some of the other ones this episode. But maybe that's just me. I did learn from doing this drawing and the images that I was looking at for it that I think ferrets are very cute. I'd never really taken a good look at them before, but
They are
really
kind
are
of
pretty
cute.
cute looking. I was looking at various images of ferrets to pull inspiration for how to do this thing's face, and while I do like the version of the face that I came up with, I also think that it doesn't quite work as well as the original creature that I was pulling from, the Blairet, where all 3 of its mouths in the original are pretty much the same shape, just along its neck. But this version,
Yeah.
because I was pulling from an actual ferret as inspiration, I had to make a longer snout, which I do like, but making the longer snout on its neck mouths didn't
Doesn't
really
really
make as
work,
much
yeah.
sense because they would have been sticking out of its neck more. Maybe I could have tried that, but I just didn't. I kind of went with the flatter mouths along the neck, and I do
I think
still
that's
think that
okay.
looks good. But I think the mouths all being a similar shape might have made this thing feel a little bit more unified and realistic. I do really
Yeah,
like how
there
the
you
fur
go.
turned out on
Unified.
this one. I don't think I'd done a My Singing Monsters more monstrous episode since I've kind of elevated and developed my fur rendering technique a little bit more. I mean, it's not that different from how it used to be. I just put a little bit more detail into it and make things
I'm actually gonna be honest. This thing almost looks like you took Blue from Blue's Clues and monstified her.
a little bit fluffier looking. And I do think it looks really nice on here, though, it might have been nice to have a bit of contrasting textures to it, like I'll often do have its stomach of a creature that's very furry be a more fleshy texture, just to vary things up a little bit more. I also realized while doing this drawing that this episode may have the most mouths I've ever drawn in an episode, because between 4 creatures in this episode, we have 9 different mouths. But anyway, even if it's not my favorite, I do still like this one. And
Wait, let's take a look. So the Blood has 3. The one at the beginning, the Gadzook, has 3. Yeah, but the Yorick technically only has 2 mouths. Oh, so that would be 5 and 8.
Take a
Oh,
look.
so the last monster must just have a singular mouth, which would make it 9. Okay, okay, I see you, I see you.
Now, to be
Yep,
perfectly
there it
honest, I
is.
have seen depictions of this creature they were after, and based on appearance alone, it is not one I'd want to come across in the dark of the night. Frankly, it reminds me of some of the decaying, mutated beasts that I
Oh
faced on the
god.
island of the cruel king Willis Aftirian, who'd made all manner of unnatural monstrosities. The homunculus fright bear is a towering 25-foot tall dire bear with half its
25,
body covered in a
damn.
thick fur and the other half made up of a durable blue flesh. The arm and paw on its fleshier side is also much larger and can be used to flatten foes or tear them to shreds. As far as the handlers could tell, there was definitively only one of these beasts left in the world,
Probably
and the residents of the
thank God.
surrounding villages to the mountains where it slumbered had been seeking to find it and kill it for quite some time. Despite its appearance, it was said to once be a very peaceful creature that would come out at night to sing a somber but soothing melody. But after humans began hunting the creatures of song, these beasts had more ability to fight back than most, and would viciously maul any humans who threatened them or other creatures in their vicinity.
Uh-oh.
Luckily, as if the Gadzian and other creatures they'd already aided understood exactly what the handlers were after, when night fell, these creatures led them to a cavern, coming from inside of which was a deep, melodic snoring. The handlers
Oh, it
stayed
was
outside the cave
sleeping.
and started quietly playing their music, allowing it to gradually get louder and louder. Eventually, the snoring stopped, and through the darkness they could instead hear thundering footsteps approaching. The handlers admitted to, at the time, being quite concerned for their lives, but kept
No
playing with
doubt.
steadfast determination. Finally, the beast emerged and stared at them with its 3 eyes, looking a blend of depressed and furious. But soon the other creatures began to play as well. The fright bear scanned the scene and allowed itself to marinate in the music. After 3 songs, it finally opened its mouth, and out came a deep musical roar that it continued to blend into the rest of the tune. They played along with the creature for nearly an hour, and despite its eyes remaining in a sorrowful gaze, it did seem to be enjoying itself. As they ceased playing, the
I
beast
wonder if it sounded similar to like the dragons from Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword. Sorry about that. Brain
wandered
glitch.
off, slowly and calmly, still singing to itself, with its tune ringing through the ethereal mountains. The handlers made sure to travel to the surrounding villages to inform them that they'd calmed the beast, and hopefully now, in spite of its frightening appearance, people that traverse these lands will feel safe to not have to defend themselves when in this creature's presence.
Yeah,
And
you'd be
if
screwed
so, this
fighting that
creature will
thing.
continue to feel safe to sing its song, and someday, when it does eventually die, it will not do so with its music still in it. Now,
Love
the first
it.
time I'd started thinking about doing an Ethereal Workshop episode, I don't think the Nightbear had been released yet. I think that was from a second set of creatures in the Ethereal Workshop.
yeah,
I could be
Nightbear.
wrong, but I don't remember seeing this one. And I was super excited when I saw this guy because I knew it was going to be very fun, and I actually chose it before I even knew that it was inspired by Five Nights at Freddy's, which of course
Wait,
I've
really?
just done a whole Grand Prix of episodes around, and I really enjoy working with. As I saw other people pointing out, in this
That's
character's
cool.
actual lore, there's a bunch of sneaky little FNAF references built in, like the fact that this thing is suspected to be powered by animatronics. It said that it always comes back, William Afton style. There's a reference to its face turning purple, like William Afton, who turns purple. And there may
And
even be a
Michael.
sneaky game theory reference in there, but maybe that's a bit of a stretch. And since I
Aw,
already
what
have
is
a
it?
Five Nights at Freddy's Dragon series set in the same world, I knew that I had to work in a reference to it. I also knew from a drawing standpoint this one was going to be a lot of fun to do because of the different built-in textures already. One side of it being more fleshy and made it almost a bit
Almost
slimy
reptilian.
looking, kind of shiny with lots of bumps to it, and then the other side having the cool thick bear fur. And then the plugs that were coming out of its head, I decided to just turn them into horns to make it a little bit more fantasy beast-like.
Oh,
And
I thought
drawing
they were
its
tendrils.
face and head as a blend of a angry Cyclops mixed with a kind of depressed, bald, gnarly-looking bear. That was a really fun thing to figure out and draw. I think I might still like one of the first two drawings in the episode as my favorites, but I'm super pleased with how this one turned out, and I hope you all like it as the last drawing of the episode.
Night Bell can definitely take my second spot on the list for this episode. Still really good. Still really good.
I'm gonna say it, I think this is the best episode of this series yet. But I'd also say this series is a pretty consistent one quality-wise. If you're new
Oh yeah, it's always good, all
here,
around.
you might want to check out the previous 5 episodes. Or if you've seen those and want something new, you might like my Five Nights at Freddy's as Godzilla Monsters episode. Done a bunch of Godzilla Monster episodes lately. And if you want another round of this, make sure to subscribe to encourage me.
Oh, well, hold on. We're glitching out. Okay, there we go.
He's going. But besides that, that's all for today, except of course for ending this video on some kind of
positive
positive or
or
inspiring
uplifting
note.
note.
And the thought I want to leave people with is the quote that I actually had embedded in this episode, which was said by Dr. Wayne Dyer, and I think he actually had a book with this very title. Don't die with your music still in you. There's something that you alone are meant to give to this world in your time here. And if you don't take the time to develop the skills around it and figure out what that thing is and give it to the world, then the world is never gonna get it. Unless you reincarnate and try again or something, I don't know. But might as well do it in this life, right? I hope that's inspiring. I love you all, and I'll see you all in the next episode on Monday. Goodbye.
Well, folks, that's going to be the end of today's video, so I hope you all enjoyed this. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe for more. Link to the original will be in the description below, and I'll see all of you folks next time when we flick on. Peace out.